The fork hit the plate with a sharp clink, and the laughter that followed felt like a slap. I sat there, staring at the chandelier above my parents' dining table, counting the crystals while my family tore apart my life choices like they were analyzing a bad investment. The roast beef was perfect. The wine was expensive. And the judgment? That was free and endless. "So, Darren," my brother Evan said, cutting into his steak with surgical precision, "are you still playing with that furniture thing?"
Playing.
That's what he called 5 years of 16-hour days, missed meals, and sleeping on my studio floor. "It's called Verde Form Designs," I said, keeping my voice level. "And yeah, I'm still building it." My sister Clarice snorted into her wine glass. "Building what exactly? Birdhouses?" The table erupted. My father's deep chuckle. My mother's polite giggle behind her napkin. Even the damn chandelier seemed to shake with mockery. I'd driven 40 minutes through spring traffic to get here. Stood outside their mansion for 10 minutes, trying to convince myself this dinner would be different. That maybe, just maybe, they'd ask about my work without the commentary. Without the condescension dripping from every word like poison from a smile. I was wrong. "Sustainable furniture for high-end clients," I replied, forcing myself to take another bite of food I could no longer taste. My father leaned back in his chair, the king surveying his disappointing kingdom. "Son, sustainability doesn't pay mortgages. I've told you this. There's still a position at the firm if you'd stop being stubborn." Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story.
Stubborn.
That was his favorite word for me. Not determined. Not passionate. Stubborn. "I'm doing fine, Dad," I said. "Fine." He gestured around the room with his wine glass. "This is fine. What you're doing is barely surviving in that studio apartment above a coffee shop." "At least I own what I built," I said quietly. The air shifted. My mother's smile tightened. Evan exchanged a glance with Clarice. My father's jaw clenched in that way that meant I'd crossed some invisible line. "Ownership of nothing is still nothing," he said, his voice dropping to that tone he used in boardrooms.
Cold.
Final. "You're 31 years old, driving that beat-up hatchback, pretending you're some kind of entrepreneur. When are you going to wake up?" The beat-up hatchback. They loved bringing that up. Like the car I drove somehow measured my worth as a human being. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. Because what they didn't know, what none of them could possibly imagine, was that 2 weeks ago I'd made a decision. A quiet one. The kind that doesn't need announcement or permission. "Actually," I said, setting down my fork, "I got rid of that car." Evan perked up, sensing blood in the water. "Oh really? What did you downgrade to this time? A bicycle?" More laughter. Always more laughter. I reached into my pocket, fingers closing around the cool metal of my key fob. The weight of it felt different now. Heavier. Like holding 5 years of doubt, every dismissive comment, every time they'd introduce me at parties as their son who tries things. "No," I said, my voice steady as stone. "I upgraded." I pressed the button. Outside, through the tall dining room windows, sleek LED headlights blinked to life.
Sharp. White.
Futuristic. The kind of lights that don't just illuminate, they announce. The laughter died like someone had cut the power. My father turned, squinting toward the driveway. My mother's wine glass paused halfway to her lips. Clarice's fork clattered against her plate. Evan's smirk melted into confusion. "What the hell is that?" my father muttered. I leaned back in my chair, finally allowing myself to smile. The kind of smile that comes from knowing something they don't. The kind that shifts power without raising a voice. "That," I said slowly, savoring each word, "is my new car." Have you ever had a moment where everything you've worked for, everything you've endured, comes down to a single reveal? Drop a comment and let me know. The memory hit me like a punch to the gut. 5 years ago. Same house. Different dinner. Same disappointment in my father's eyes. I was 26, sitting in his office with my resignation letter from Henderson and Associates, one of the top corporate firms in the state. The leather chair creaked under his weight as he read it, his face darkening with every line. You're throwing away a six-figure salary to make furniture? He didn't yell. That would have been easier. Instead, his voice was flat, empty, like I'd already died, and he was reading my obituary. Sustainable design, Dad. There's a market for it. People want eco-friendly options that don't look like garbage. He tossed the letter on his desk. People want a lot of things, Darren. Doesn't mean you can build a business on wishes and recycled wood. My mother stood in the doorway, wringing her hands. Honey, maybe you could do this as a hobby? Keep your real job and… This is my real job, I said. This is what I want to build. My father stood up, walked to the window overlooking his perfectly manicured lawn. You know what your problem is? You think passion pays bills. It doesn't. Reality does. Stability does. And you're about to learn that lesson the hard way. 3 months later, at a family barbecue, he introduced me to his business partners. This is my son, Darren. He's taking some time to figure things out. The way he said it, like I was a teenager finding myself instead of a grown man chasing a dream. Evan loved it. Dad, should we set up a lemonade stand for him? Help him practice capitalism. Everyone laughed. I stood there holding a beer I couldn't taste, swallowing the humiliation like bitter medicine. That night, alone in my tiny studio apartment that smelled like sawdust and coffee from the shop below, I made a promise. Not to them. To myself. I'd prove them wrong. No matter how long it took. No matter how many times they laughed. The email arrived at 2 a.m. I was still awake, sketching furniture designs on graph paper, my desk lamp the only light in the darkness. Subject: Inquiry, Custom Furniture Project. My hand trembled as I clicked it open. Dear Mr. Holt, we came across your portfolio online and are impressed with your sustainable design approach. We represent a boutique hotel group exploring custom furniture options for our properties. Would you be available for a consultation? I read it 3 times. Then 4. Then I got up and paced my apartment, my heart hammering against my ribs. This was it. The break I'd been grinding for. The chance that could change everything. Or destroy me if I screwed it up. Have you ever gotten an opportunity that felt too good to be true? Let me know in the comments. The consultation meeting was in 2 weeks. I had 14 days to prepare a pitch that would either launch my company or confirm my father's prediction that I was wasting my time. I worked like a man possessed. Sketches covered every surface of my studio. Coffee cups piled up in the sink. I didn't sleep, just took power naps on the floor between my drafting table and the couch. My business account had $3,000. Rent was due in 6 days. The electric bill sat unopened on the counter because I was terrified to look at it. You good, man? Marcus, the coffee shop owner downstairs, asked when I came down for my 5th espresso of the day. You look like death. I'm perfect, I lied. Just busy. He slid the coffee across the counter. This one's on me. Whatever you're working on, I hope it pays off. It had to. Because if this deal fell through, I'd be moving back to my parents' house within a month, and the thought of that made me want to drive into the ocean. The pitch day arrived. I wore my only suit, the one I'd bought for corporate interviews years ago. It still fit, barely. I'd lost weight from the stress. The hotel representatives were everything I expected.
Polished.
Professional. The kind of people who could smell desperation from across a conference room. I showed them my designs, explained my process, talked about sustainability like it was a religion I'd devoted my life to. They nodded, took notes, asked questions I'd prepared for. Then came the one I hadn't. Mr. Holt, your designs are impressive, but we need to know you can deliver at scale. Have you completed any projects of this magnitude before? The room went silent. I could feel my chance slipping away like water through fingers. No, I said, meeting her eyes. But I've completed 30 smaller projects, each one delivered on time and under budget. I don't have experience at your scale yet, but I have something better. I have everything to prove. She smiled. It wasn't warm, but it wasn't cold either. We'll be in touch. I drove home in a daze, convinced I'd blown it, that my honesty had cost me everything. 3 days later, my phone rang. Mr. Holt? We'd like to move forward. Can you come in to discuss contract details? I sat down on my studio floor and cried. Not sad tears. The kind that come when your body doesn't know how else to release 5 years of pressure. Then my landlord called. Rent was 3 days overdue. The electric company sent a final notice. I had the contract of a lifetime in front of me and couldn't afford to eat until it closed. What would you do in that moment? Comment below. The contract negotiation took 2 weeks. 2 weeks of living on ramen and stress, checking my phone every 5 minutes, terrified they'd change their minds. The number they offered made my hands shake. $475,000 for custom furniture across 5 hotel properties. Delivery over 18 months. 50% upfront. I signed my name with a pen that barely worked, my signature shaky from caffeine and disbelief. The first payment hit my account 3 days later. I stared at the balance on my phone screen for a solid 5 minutes, convinced it was a mistake. It wasn't. I paid my rent, paid my bills, bought actual groceries, stood in the supermarket aisle fighting back tears because I could afford name-brand cereal. The work consumed me. I hired 2 assistants, rented a proper workshop, and spent every waking hour bringing those designs to life. The furniture had to be perfect, not just good.
Perfect.
My family didn't know. I didn't tell them. Every time my mother called asking how I was doing, I gave vague answers.
Busy.
Things are moving forward. That's nice, dear, she'd say, her tone suggesting she didn't believe me. At Thanksgiving, my father asked if I needed money. The pity in his voice made me want to flip the table, but I smiled and said, "I'm good, Dad. Really good." He didn't believe me either. 6 months into the project, I got the call from the hotel group. They were thrilled. Wanted to accelerate the timeline. Wanted to add a 6th property. My business was exploding, and nobody in my family had a clue. That's when I saw it. The Tesla Model S in midnight silver, sitting in the showroom like a dream wrapped in metal and electricity. $120,000. Every feature. Every upgrade. The old me would have walked away. Would have thought it was frivolous, unnecessary, too much. But I wasn't the old me anymore. I thought about every dinner where they'd mocked my car. Every comment about my beat-up hatchback. Every assumption that I was barely surviving. I walked up to the sales guy and said 5 words that changed everything. "I want to buy it."
Cash.
His eyes widened. "Sir, we can arrange financing that." "Cash," I repeated. "Full payment. Today." 2 hours later, I drove off the lot in complete silence. Not car silence. The silence of validation. Of knowing I'd done something they said was impossible. I didn't post about it. Didn't tell anyone. I wanted to sit with it first. Let it be mine before it became theirs to judge. Then my mother called. "Darren, we're having dinner Friday. You should come. It's been too long." I looked at my Tesla keys on the counter. Smiled.
Yeah, Mom.
"I'll be there." Ever made a purchase that felt like more than just buying something?
Tell me about it.
Friday came too fast and not fast enough. I spent the morning finishing a furniture order, my mind half on sanding edges and half on the dinner waiting for me that evening.
Part of me wanted to skip it.
Claim I was sick. Make up some excuse that would save me from another round of judgment disguised as family bonding. But another part of me, the part that had been swallowing their comments for 5 years, wanted this.
Needed it.
I showered, dressed in jeans and a button-down, nothing fancy. Checked my reflection in the mirror and saw someone different than the guy who'd left corporate life. Older, tired, but also solid in a way I hadn't been before. The Tesla sat in my parking spot, still feeling surreal. I ran my hand along the door before getting in, the cool metal under my fingers a reminder that this wasn't a dream. The drive to my parents' house felt longer than usual. Every mile was a countdown to something I couldn't quite name. Not revenge. That wasn't it. More like revelation. The moment when silence stops being defeat and becomes strategy. I parked at the end of their long driveway, far enough from the house that the car wouldn't be obvious from the windows. Didn't want to give away the surprise before dinner even started. My mother opened the door, wearing pearls and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Darren, you made it. Come in. Everyone's already here. Traffic was light, I said, stepping into the marble foyer that always made me feel like a visitor in a museum. You look thin, she said, studying my face. Are you eating enough? I eat plenty, Mom. She touched my arm, that gentle concern that felt more like inspection than affection. Well, we have plenty of food tonight. Your father grilled steaks. The dining room looked exactly like it always did. Crystal and china and roses that probably cost more than my first month's rent had been. Evan and Clarice were already seated, wine glasses in hand, looking comfortable in a way I'd never managed in this house. My father glanced up from his phone. You're late. I'm on time, I corrected. Dinner's at 7. It's 6:58. Close enough to late, he muttered. And just like that, we were off to the races. I took my seat, poured myself water instead of wine, and prepared for the evening ahead. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A notification from my bank. Another payment clearing from the hotel group. I silenced it and smiled. Clarice leaned forward, her diamond bracelet catching the chandelier light. So, Darren, still working in that studio? Or have you upgraded to something with actual square footage? Still in the same place, I said. It works for what I need. How quaint, she said, and Evan snorted into his wine. My mother brought out the salad. My father carved the steaks. And I sat there, feeling the weight of my car keys in my pocket, wondering if they'd ever suspect what was waiting outside. The mockery would start soon. It always did. But this time, I was ready. This time, I had an answer they'd never see coming. Have you ever sat on a secret that you knew would change everything? Drop a comment. The steak was perfect. Medium rare, exactly how my father liked it. The wine was some vintage I couldn't pronounce. Everything on that table cost more than most people's monthly salaries. And none of it could mask the contempt. So, Evan said, cutting into his meat with that surgeon's precision he loved to show off, how's the furniture business? Still making coffee tables for hipsters. I took a bite, chewed slowly. It's going well, actually. Well, my father repeated, like the word was funny. That's a relative term, isn't it? Clarice swirled her wine. I saw the cutest little end table at a boutique last week. Made from reclaimed wood or something. Is that the kind of thing you do? Something like that, I said. How adorable, she smiled. Do you sell many? My mother jumped in, trying to smooth things over. I'm sure Darren is doing just fine with his business. It's important to follow your passion. Passion doesn't pay mortgages, Marlene, my father said. I've tried telling him that for years. The familiar weight settled on my chest. The feeling of being small at a big table. Of being the punchline nobody had to explain because everyone already got the joke. But this time, something was different. This time, I had armor they couldn't see. You know what your problem is? My father continued, pointing his fork at me. You've always been too idealistic. Too stuck in your head. The real world doesn't care about your eco-friendly whatever. It cares about profit margins and market share. I understand profit margins just fine, Dad. He laughed. Actually laughed. Do you? Because last I checked, you were still living above a coffee shop and driving that ancient hatchback around town. Evan leaned back, grinning. Speaking of which, how is that car running? Still making that weird noise when you accelerate. The table erupted. My sister's high-pitched giggle. My mother's embarrassed smile. My father's deep chuckle that felt like thunder in my chest. I set down my fork, reached into my pocket, felt the smooth metal of the key fob under my fingers. Actually, I said, my voice cutting through the laughter like a knife through silk, I don't drive that car anymore. Evan perked up, sensing blood. Oh yeah? Finally died on you? I told you that thing wouldn't last another year. What did you get? Clarice asked, her tone suggesting she expected another punchline. Please tell me you didn't buy another used Prius. I pulled out the key fob, held it up so they could see the sleek design, the Tesla logo catching the chandelier light. I upgraded, I said simply. Then I pressed the button. Outside, through the tall windows overlooking the driveway, LED headlights flashed.
Bright. White.
Unmistakable. The kind of lights that don't apologize for existing. The laughter stopped like someone had cut the audio. My father's head whipped toward the window. My mother's wine glass froze halfway to her mouth. Evan's fork clattered against his plate. Clarice's eyes went wide, her mouth forming a small O of surprise. "What the hell is that?" my father muttered, standing up. I stayed seated.
Calm.
In control. "That's my car." "That's a Tesla," Evan said, his voice flat with disbelief. "Model S," I confirmed. "Fully loaded. Every feature available." My mother blinked rapidly, processing. "You bought that 2 weeks ago. Paid in full." The silence that followed was delicious. The kind of silence that comes when the entire script flips and nobody knows their lines anymore. My father walked to the window, staring at the car like it might disappear if he looked away. "You can't afford something like that." "And yet," I said, standing up now, walking to join him at the window. "There it sits. In your driveway. Registered in my name." Clarice found her voice first. "How much did that cost?" $120,000, I said. "Give or take." She choked on her wine. Evan just stared. My mother covered her mouth with her hand. My father turned to face me, his expression somewhere between shock and anger. "You're lying. There's no way you have that kind of money. What did you do, take out a massive loan?" I met his eyes. Didn't blink. "No loan. Cash purchase. Same day." "That's impossible," he said. "Is it?" I asked. "Or did you just convince yourself it was impossible because that's easier than admitting you were wrong about me?" The room went still. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then I smiled. Not smug. Not cruel. Just confident. "Business has been good, Dad. Really good." "What would you say in this moment? Let me know below." My father's face went through about 5 different emotions in 3 seconds.
Shock.
Disbelief. Anger.
Confusion.
And finally, something that might have been respect if it wasn't mixed with so much denial. "What do you mean business has been good?" he demanded. "Good enough to drop 120 grand on a car?" I walked back to my seat, took a sip of water. Let them squirm. Let them wonder. After 5 years of their questions, they could wait 5 seconds for my answers. "We signed a contract 6 months ago," I said finally. "Boutique hotel group out of San Francisco. They wanted custom, sustainable furniture for their properties. All of them." Evan leaned forward. "How many properties?" "Started with 5. They just added a 6th. "And they're paying you for this?" Clarice asked, like the concept was foreign. $475,000 for the original contract. The 6th location pushed it over $500,000. My mother gasped. Actually gasped. Like I'd announced I'd won the lottery instead of earned it. My father shook his head. "I don't believe you. Show me the contract." "Why would I carry a business contract to a family dinner?" I asked. "You want me to email you the bank statements too? Show you the account where the deposits landed?" His jaw clenched. That tell he had when he knew he was losing an argument but wasn't ready to admit it. "Even if that's true," he said, "buying a car like that is reckless. You should be reinvesting that money, building a safety net, not wasting it on status symbols." The irony was so thick I could have cut it with a steak knife. "Status symbols," I repeated slowly. "Like this house? This neighborhood? These cars in your garage? This dinner that probably cost more than most people spend on groceries in a month?" My mother flinched. "Darren, that's not fair." "Isn't it?" I turned to her. "How many times have you introduced me at parties as your son who's trying to find himself? How many times have you apologized for my choices to your friends?" She looked away.
Guilty.
I turned back to my father. "You taught me that success requires sacrifice. Long hours. Dedication. Risk."
I did all of that.
"The only difference is I did it my way instead of yours." "And that car?" Evan jumped in, trying to defend our father. "That's your way? Blowing money on toys." "That car," I said, my voice steady as stone, "is a reminder. Every time I sit in it, I remember why I started this. Not for your approval. Not to fit into your version of success. but to prove to myself that I could build something real. I stood up, pulled out my phone, found the photo I'd saved. The first furniture piece I'd ever sold. A simple desk made from reclaimed oak. Sold it for $300 to a college student who'd saved up for months. This is where it started. I showed them the picture. $300. I was so excited I called Marcus downstairs and bought coffee for everyone in the shop. I swiped to another photo. A hotel lobby filled with my designs.
Sleek. Modern.
Beautiful. This is where it led. And it's not stopping. My father studied the photos, his expression unreadable. Why didn't you tell us? Because every time I tried, you laughed, I said simply. So, I stopped trying. Started proving instead. The silence stretched. Then, my father did something I'd never seen him do before. He walked outside toward the Tesla. We all followed. My mother wrapping a shawl around her shoulders. Evan and Clarice exchanging confused glances. Me, walking calmly behind them all, watching my father approach the car like it was a monument he needed to understand. He ran his hand along the door, peered through the window at the interior, walked around it slowly, taking in every angle. It's a good car, he said finally. His voice was different. Quieter. Fast. 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds, I said. Quiet. Nearly silent. That's the point.
He looked at me then.
Really looked at me. Not through me or past me, but at me. It doesn't need to make noise to move fast. I smiled. He got it. Finally understood the metaphor I'd been living.
No, Dad.
It doesn't. Have you ever had someone finally see you for who you are? Share your story in the comments. My mother stood by the car, her hand on her chest like she was trying to hold her heart in place. Darren, I don't understand. Why didn't you share this with us? We're family. Because family should have believed in me before the proof, I said. Not after. Clarice had the decency to look embarrassed. She touched the car's hood, then pulled her hand back like it might burn her. I'm sorry, she said quietly. For the comments. All of them. Me too, Evan added, though his apology sounded more automatic than genuine. I just thought you were being reckless. Throwing away a good career for a gamble. It was a gamble, I admitted. But it was mine to make. And I won. My father circled back to the front of the car, studying the Tesla logo like it held secrets. The hotel contract. Is it sustainable or just a one-time thing? They want to expand the partnership. 3 more locations next year. And I've got 2 other chains asking for proposals. He nodded slowly.
Processing.
His whole worldview of me shifting in real time. You're actually doing this. Building something real. I've been telling you that for 5 years. I know, he said. And for the first time in my adult life, my father's voice cracked. Just a little. Just enough to be human. I know. And I was wrong. Those words hung in the night air like stars.
Bright.
Impossible. Beautiful. My mother started crying. Not dramatic sobs, just quiet tears rolling down her cheeks. We pushed you away. We made you feel like you had to hide your success from us. You did. I agreed. No point in softening it now. Every dinner was a test I was failing. Every conversation was a reminder I wasn't enough. But you were, she whispered. You were always enough. We just couldn't see past our own expectations. Evan kicked at the driveway gravel. How much did you make last year? Total. More than I made in 3 years at Henderson and Associates, I said. And I actually like going to work now. He whistled low. Damn. My father walked up to me, put his hand on my shoulder. The weight of it felt different than it used to. Not heavy with disappointment, just present.
Solid. Real.
I'm proud of you, he said. I should have said it years ago, but I'm saying it now. I'm proud of you, son. I'd waited my entire adult life for those words. Imagined what they'd feel like, how I'd react. Would I cry? Yell? Throw it back in his face? Instead, I just felt tired, relieved. Like I'd been holding my breath underwater and finally broke the surface. Thanks, Dad, I said. That means something. We stood there, all of us, in that driveway surrounded by wealth they'd built and wealth I'd created. Two different paths to the same destination. Two different definitions of success, finally meeting in the middle. Want to see the interior? I asked. My father grinned. Actually grinned. Hell yes. I unlocked the doors. They piled in like kids at Christmas. My mother in the front passenger seat, running her hands over the leather. My siblings in the back, playing with a touch screen. My father studying the dashboard like he was preparing for surgery. This is incredible, my mother breathed. It's like sitting in the future. It's just a car, I said, but I was smiling. Because it wasn't just a car. It was validation wrapped in metal and electricity. Proof that dreams can cash checks. We sat there for 20 minutes, all of us, in that Tesla.
Talking.
Actually talking. About my business. Their lives. The years of distance that had built up between us like rust on old metal. When we finally went back inside, the dinner had gone cold. Nobody cared. We ordered pizza instead. Sat around the kitchen island like a normal family instead of strangers performing politeness. It wasn't perfect. 5 years of hurt doesn't heal in one night. But it was a start. A crack in the wall wide enough to let light through. As I drove home that night, the Tesla humming beneath me like a promise kept, I realized something. The car wasn't the victory. The money wasn't the victory. The victory was knowing I'd done it my way. That I'd bet on myself when nobody else would. That I'd turned their laughter into fuel instead of letting it burn me down. What's something you've accomplished that nobody believed you could? Drop a comment and inspire someone else. 3 weeks passed before my father called. Not a text. Not an email. An actual phone call. His name lit up my screen while I was reviewing furniture designs, and for a second, I considered letting it go to voicemail. Old habits. But I answered. Hey, Dad.
Darren.
He cleared his throat. That nervous sound he made before board meetings. You got a minute? Yeah, what's up? Silence. The kind that meant he was choosing words carefully. My father never chose words carefully. He usually just threw them like punches. I wanted to say I'm sorry, he said finally. Really sorry. Not just for that dinner, but for years before it. For making you feel like your dreams were less important than mine. I set down my pencil, stared at the wall of my studio. Dad, you don't have to. I do, he interrupted. Because you were right. About all of it. I spent so much time building my version of success that I couldn't see you building yours. You were protecting me, I said. In your own way. No, he said firmly. I was controlling you. There's a difference. And you had the guts to walk away from that control and build something real. That takes more courage than I ever gave you credit for. My throat tightened. Thanks for saying that. Can I ask you something? He said.
Sure.
Are you happy? Like actually happy, not just successful. Because there's a difference there too. I thought about it. Really thought. About the long hours and the stress and the uncertainty that still kept me up some nights. But also about the satisfaction of creating something beautiful. Of clients telling me my work changed how they saw their spaces. Of Marcus downstairs saying my success inspired him to expand his coffee shop. Yeah, Dad. I said. I'm happy. Tired as hell, but happy. He laughed. The real kind. Not the mocking kind from dinner tables. Good. That's all that matters. Your mother and I, we want to support you now. However we can. If you need connections, introductions, anything. I appreciate that, I said. But I think I need to keep building this myself. Not because I don't trust you, but because I need to know it's mine. I understand, he said. But the offer stands. Always. Thanks, Dad. And, Darren? Next time you land a big contract or buy a ridiculously expensive car, tell us. We want to celebrate with you, not find out when you're shoving it in our faces. I grinned. In my defense, you guys deserved that one. We absolutely did, he agreed. Talk soon, son. Talk soon. I set the phone down. Sat there for a minute just breathing. Feeling the weight of years lifting off my shoulders like fog burning off in morning sun. My business kept growing. The hotel contracts multiplied. I hired 4 more people. Moved into a real workshop with actual square footage and loading docks. Started getting calls from design magazines wanting to feature my work. At the next family gathering, everything was different. My father introduced me to his business partners without the qualifying statements. Just, "This is my son Darren. He runs Verde Form Designs. Sustainable furniture," I added. "High-end sustainable furniture," my father corrected. "Show them that hotel lobby photo. The one from San Francisco." I pulled out my phone. Showed them. Watched their eyebrows raise. Watched them ask questions. Real questions. The kind people ask when they're actually interested instead of just being polite. Evan pulled me aside later. "Listen, I've been a jerk. Competitive big brother stuff. But that's not an excuse. You built something incredible, and I was too proud to admit it." "We good?" I asked. "We're good," he said. "Also, can you help me redesign my office? Because apparently you're the expert now." "Apparently," I grinned. Even Clarice thawed. Asked about my design process. Wanted to hire me for her vacation house. I gave her the family discount and only charged cost for materials. But the best part? The part that mattered more than the money or the contracts or even the apologies. I didn't need their approval anymore. Had it. Appreciated it. But didn't need it. Because somewhere in those 5 years of grinding and doubting and building, I'd found something more valuable. Self-respect. The kind that doesn't come from external validation, but from knowing you gave everything to your dream and it gave back. That's the real victory. Not the Tesla. Not the contracts. The moment you realize you've become the person you were trying to prove you could be. Ever reached a point where you didn't need someone's approval anymore? Share your moment below. 6 months after that dinner, I got invited to speak at a small business conference. Nothing huge. Maybe 200 people. The organizer had seen my work featured in a design magazine and thought my story might inspire entrepreneurs struggling to start. I almost said no. Public speaking terrified me. But then I thought about 26-year-old me sitting in that studio apartment, wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. If that version of me could have heard someone say it was possible, maybe those nights would have been less dark. So I said yes. Standing backstage, my palms were sweating. My heart was hammering. The Tesla keys in my pocket felt like a talisman. A reminder of how far I'd come. The introduction finished. I walked out, looked at the audience, saw faces that looked exactly like I'd felt 5 years ago. Scared. Hopeful. Desperate for proof that their gamble might pay off. I didn't use notes. Just told my story. The corporate job. The leap. The mockery. The grind. The breakthrough. The dinner. All of it. When I finished, the applause was nice. But what mattered were the people who came up after. The woman who'd just quit her marketing job to start a nonprofit. The guy who'd been designing apps in his garage for 3 years. The kid who looked about 23, eyes bright with dreams his parents didn't understand. "Did it ever get easier?" the kid asked. The doubt. "No," I told him honestly. "But you get stronger. Strong enough to carry it." He nodded, shook my hand, walked away looking less alone than when he'd approached. That night, driving home in the Tesla, I thought about success, about how we define it, how society defines it, how families define it. My father thought success was corner offices and quarterly earnings. My mother thought it was the right marriage, the right neighborhood, the right appearance. My siblings thought it was credentials and status. They were all right. And all wrong. Because success isn't one thing. It's the thing that lets you sleep at night. The thing that makes Monday morning feel like opportunity instead of obligation. The thing that turns your rearview mirror into proof instead of regret. For me, success was driving past my old corporate office and feeling nothing. No bitterness. No what-ifs. Just gratitude that I'd had the courage to leave. Success was Marcus telling me my story made him take his coffee shop from good to great. Success was my father calling just to talk. No agenda. No lectures. Just connection. Success was looking at my team and knowing I'd created jobs, opportunities, futures. And yeah, success was also the Tesla. Not because it was expensive, but because it was evidence. Physical proof that dreams cash checks if you work long enough and hard enough and refuse to let other people's doubt become your ceiling. The people who mocked me at that dinner? They came around, apologized,
Supported me.
and I forgave them because holding on to anger would have been like drinking poison and expecting them to get sick. But I never forgot. Not the laughter, not the doubt, not the way their voices sounded when they dismissed my life's work over steak and wine. I kept all of it, stored it like fuel, used it on the hard days when clients were difficult and deadlines seemed impossible and my bank account looked scary again. Those memories reminded me why I started, why I couldn't quit, why their laughter had to become my motivation instead of my defeat. Here's what I learned. What I want you to know: if you're grinding in a studio apartment or garage or spare bedroom while people question your choices, their doubt is not your destiny. Their laughter is not your limit. Their expectations are not your ceiling. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your dreams. You owe yourself the effort to make them real. Success doesn't announce itself. It whispers. It builds slowly. It shows up in the quiet moments when you realize you've become the person you were trying to prove existed. And when it finally arrives, when the breakthrough comes and the contract's close and the car gets bought, you'll realize something profound. The best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's becoming so fulfilled by your choices that their opinions stop mattering. Mockery fades. Success echoes. And sometimes, victory doesn't roar. It hums. Quiet and electric, carrying you forward while the doubters watch from windows, finally understanding what you knew all along. You were never the disappointment. You were just early. If this story inspired you, drop a comment below sharing your dream, your struggle, your victory, because someone else needs to hear it. Someone else is sitting in their version of my studio apartment, wondering if they should quit. Your story might be the thing that keeps them going. Subscribe and hit that notification bell. More stories of quiet victories and loud transformations coming soon. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their dream matters, that their grind counts, that their day is coming. And to everyone who's still grinding,
Keep going.
your Tesla moment is closer than you think. The dinner where everything shifts is already scheduled. You just have to stay in the game long enough to make it there. Thanks for listening to my story. Now go write yours.